All right, everyone, thanks for joining us here tonight. Really glad to see our returning members of Parks and Rec, and really glad to see our new folks here with us tonight. Unfortunately, the borough air conditioning is not functioning. We have two issues. This half of the building needs a whole new HVAC system, which is currently in progress of being installed. The other half of the building, a sensor blew in the AC unit 2 weeks ago. We have tried bypassing the sensor until we could get it replaced, and that did not work. So now, like everything in the world, we're waiting for this sensor to arrive so that we can fix the AC over there. By your next meeting, the AC, at least on the other side, will be fixed, and depending on the weather, you all may want to consider meeting in the big room instead of meeting here, so that we'll have air conditioning. All right, so we'll get started with introductions. Hello, everyone. I am Samantha Bryant, Borough Manager. We'll start with our esteemed guests here in the crowd, and then we'll introduce the members of the committee.
I'm just here to watch. I mean, I'm not, partaking of the meeting. I'm just here moral support in case there are any questions or comes up. But I am Michelle Patanopoulos, Vice President of Borough Council and the Chair of the Infrastructure Committee. And Infrastructure is typically the interface liaison to Parks and Rec. So our committee will, make an attempt to have somebody in meetings, and certainly we'll make sure that we have somebody that this committee can always reach out to communicate with those staff and the council.
All right, we'll go around this side.
Dennis Callan, new to the Parks and Rec Committee at the first of the year, and that's it.
Good to see you.
Thanks.
Carolyn Giordano, also new as of December this year to this committee. I live on the south side. I have 2 kids. In terms of parks and recreation, I use it, but I also am on the board for Lower Merion Little League, and I commissioned the softball division there, so I'm active with softball and the Lower Merion.
Dennis Brogan, I live on Dudley Avenue, been there about 34, 35 years or so. Raised 3 kids here, and now I drag my grandkids here. So it's a great place, and new on board as of, I guess, today.
Chris McLeod, I live on Shady Lane, and I am new to the board today. 2 sons and a wife. Been in Arbor for 15 years.
I'm Jean Gora. I've been in Arbor for 14 years now. I have 2 kids. I live right on Essex Avenue, pretty close to Save My Park. And my background is in graphic design and marketing. And I'm excited to contribute. Great.
Well, as I said, thank you everyone for being here tonight and for being willing to support the borough by being on the Parks and Rec board. Usually at every meeting there's public comment. There's no one here from the public tonight, so we will not have any public comment. So the first thing I want to do is just walk through some housekeeping with everyone, just so we're all on the same knowledge base, given how relatively new Dennis and Carolyn are, how absolutely new everyone else is. So the Parks and Recreation Board, I'm going to share my screen here, was created by an ordinance of Borough Council. And of course this is in the way, and I need to move it. There we go. And sets out the general kind of guidelines and rules and that sort of thing. Most of it's pretty straightforward. I'm just going to very briefly run through it. If anyone wants to ever read it in detail, it was emailed out to everyone. So Borough Council appoints the members of the Rec Board. The Rec Board consists of 7 members, you 5 plus Jim McNulty and Michelle Parton. The term of each member is for 4 years. You generally have staggered terms. I don't know what they all are off the top of my head, but they are listed on the borough website. Let's see the staggering. All members shall be residents of the Borough of Marburg. The members shall serve without compensation, so if anyone was expecting to get paid, now's their chance to go. However, may be reimbursed for expenses when incurred. Generally, I try, if there's some expense you're gonna incur, to let me know, and if the borough can just pay it, we'll do that. Only in a worst case scenario, generally I expect volunteers to do stuff and get reimbursed. I know Gina's actually with some bike stuff has gone through that with the borough. But, we'll worry about that when it happens. If anyone no longer lives in the borough, you shall be immediately removed from the Parks and Rec Board. In addition, if you do a whole list of other things here, it's good common sense, that will get you removed from the board. I don't think we'll ever have to worry about that, it's in the ordinance. We'll get to this in a minute. You are to have a chairperson, vice chairperson, and secretary. You are to keep minutes, records of the things that you do in your meetings. And a majority of the board, 4 people, shall constitute a quorum, which again, we talk about the Sunshine Act. We'll cover that in more detail. There's some really broad sort of purposes of the Parks and Rec Board listed in the ordinance. We're going to talk in more detail later about the Parks and Rec charge from council and the infrastructure committee. I'm already sweating and we're only 10 minutes into this meeting. And then there's the kind of a housekeeping note of no less than annually shall the board make a report of its activities for council. That's a requirement of every committee in the borough. Any questions about that ordinance right now? Okay. Like I said, if you run across any questions later, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to be at least straight off. All right, the Sunshine Act. So every committee in the borough council, as well as this one, is governed by the state Sunshine Act. This is a presentation I got from the State Office of Open Records, and I thought might be a helpful sort of framework to talk about it. So again, we'll just kind of briefly run through these slides. If people have questions, feel free to ask. And then if you think of a question later, feel free to let me know. Oh boy, we're not going to do this. This is one of those ones where it's old school transitions and stuff. All right, so, and if you ever have any questions for some reason, if you don't want to ask me and you want to directly ask the Office of Open Records, their contact information is right here on the first slide. It's like a second of lag time, I think, but I can be there. All right, so this is the the text of the introduction of the state's open meetings law. I mean, basically everything we're going to go over is generally common sense. I would just charge you with thinking about it as if borough council did something that you were thinking of doing, would you be upset if borough council did whatever you're thinking of doing? And just use that as kind of a general guidepost. But again, I'm also happy to be a reference if any questions. So, generally for any meeting, you have to provide advance notice. And advance notice means a legal ad in the newspaper. The state law is very antiquated when it comes to that sort of thing. Right now, your meetings have already been advertised for this year for the second Thursday of every month, but we'll talk later about whether we're going to change that or not. The borough office handles all those legal advertisements. You just need to keep in mind that we need enough heads up to get a legal ad in the paper in time for your meeting. Because we generally prefer to use the mainline Times because they're cheaper than the Inquirer, but they only do legal ads on Sundays. In terms of attendance, again, it's state law that a quorum, in this case, 4 people, have to be here in person. For a while during COVID, they let people do fully virtual meetings. Unfortunately, that's no longer an option. Yes.
Is that even with non-voting meetings, or is that all
Voting
meetings?
non-voting, sorry, I don't mean to be snarky, sorry.
No, before it was, you could meet online if there was nothing you were voting. So committees were meeting, and it was okay on Zoom, even after COVID, if there was no vote.
I
So if it was
would,
just for discussion or an executive session, it was okay?
well, I can't imagine any purpose this committee would ever have for executive session, but if you ever had a valid reason for executive session, yes, you could do that via Zoom. I would say even meetings that are purely discussion, we'll come to that in a minute in the definitions here. I would, just to be on the safe side, would probably advise against that. But we'll come to that. That's a good question. We'll come to that in a minute. And as noted on this agenda, public comment has to be allowed prior to decisions. Hence why most meetings in the borough, public comment is usually one of the first things on the meeting agenda. Who is covered by this? Any state or local government bodies and all committees, aka the Parks and Rec Board. Making recommendations equals an official action. So again, you have to have the majority here present at a meeting that has been legally advertised and notice given to the public before you can make any recommendations officially to the Borough Council. This is with extra detail. So this is kind of getting what Carolyn just asked about, what constitutes a meeting. Again, even if it's deliberation and there's not an actual vote of any kind, then it would be considered a meeting. And then as noted on here, email does count as a violation of the Open Records Act. So you never want to have an email chain going with 4 people on the committee where you would be talking about any actual business. Really, the only thing I would ever say you should do via email is just schedule meetings, which would then be legally advertised and all that. Yeah.
So, if you had an email exchange or verbal conversation with another member,
that's fine.
that's fine.
Yeah.
If you do it with what turns out to be a quorum of individuals, then it is no longer fine.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate all questions. I'd rather you ask now and know than have to find out the hard way later. Again, this is kind of more detail. Again, you're allowed information sessions. Some places like work sessions is a tricky thing. I would generally say a work session should be a legally advertised meeting if therefore more of you present for it. Generally when something is not a meeting, communication is one way. So if we had a situation where like I was just providing information to you all and then we didn't talk about it and we just left and went home, or some other outside expert came in to talk to you about something and then we left after that, that would not be a meeting. We would not need to legally advertise that. We would not have to have 4 of us here about that thing.
Would you, if I'm jumping ahead,
No,
would
please
you,
ask.
if there was something like that, like a work session, would you then be video? I mean, I think the recording is just verbal, not video necessarily, correct?
So in terms of the recording, we will talk about that in a minute. Recording is actually not legally required by the Open Records Act. That's it should say policy preference of Borough Council. So as I mentioned, we had to do legal notice in a paid newspaper 3 days in advance of the first meeting of the year, along with all the other meetings. And again, like I said, the borough office handles all that sort of stuff. Special meetings 24 hours notice. But like I said, keep in mind, we have to catch the Sunday times, or else we have to then pay the inquirer, which is like twice as much for legal ad. Emergency meetings, I think I would ask you all to check with me before you consider something for determination on whether something is an emergency meeting or not before doing that. If you need to cancel a meeting, there's no notification required for that. And that's what's been happening for the last few Parks and Rec meetings. For your agenda, the agenda must be publicly posted at least 24 hours prior to the meeting. We are allowed to just post that on the borough website. So whoever gets elected chair, I'll want to work closely with that person to develop or as close as that person wants, to develop the meeting agenda and make sure it gets posted on the borough website within 24 hours, no later than 24 hours before the meeting. My general preference is that agendas and packets get posted the Friday before a meeting, so people have adequate time to kind of look over it, but we at least get 24 hours, that's the law. At the meeting, you can change the agenda. However, you have to take a majority vote to do that. And then borough staff have to update the agenda on the website within 24 hours after the meeting. So if you have a meeting where you need to change the agenda, you take a majority vote on it. And then if you do that, just make sure someone lets me or another borough staff person know that you made an update to the agenda so we can do it online.
What does that technically look like when it goes to the vote?
Yeah, so it's a majority of whoever all is present at the meeting. So for example, tonight, since there's just 5 of us here, a majority vote would be 3 people. Again, great questions. Good there. Public comment. In a committee like this, I would generally recommend against really putting a lot of limit on public comment unless it turns into a real problem. You can limit it to residents and taxpayers.
I'm going to go back to the agenda. So sometimes on agendas there's a section that says new business. Is that kind of a catch-all where then you could have a new business item and so then you don't have to go through the reposting the agenda with the votes? Or is that not that?
Your old agendas did have that. I'll admit for that exact reason, I think back in the day, aka this law is relatively new, it happened in the last 7 months.
Okay.
So I think, 8 months ago, yes, that's exactly why new business exists on the agenda.
Okay, so now it has to be specifically what was that business, vote on it, and then chat about it if it passes, and then tell you what it was.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you.
So you are allowed to establish reasonable rules for public comment. For example, for council meetings, we have a 3-minute time limit. You should be careful not to infringe on people's First Amendment rights, but you also, have to, if you don't have any of those things, then get action. Executive sessions. You don't want to take minutes at executive session. You don't have to legally advertise it. However, there's only a handful of very specific reasons you're allowed to have an executive session. Generally, they revolve around personnel, open or possible litigation, property acquisition, and public safety, which are things, for the most part, I don't think this committee will ever get involved in, but you never know. Again, if a situation ever comes up, we can, I'm here to help, and here you go. Personnel matters, labor negotiations, acquisition or selling property, litigation, discussing university admission standards, and emergency preparedness. Violations, hopefully we'll never have to worry about this. The public can object to a violation. Agencies can cure violations, which means you just fix whatever you did that caused the issue. Meetings can be voided, so if if a decision or recommendation is made at a meeting that wasn't legally held or advertised, that decision can be voided. While it does say, the law does say that fines are paid by the official, not the agency, had to be a pretty egregious violation of the act to constitute something that would be a fine. And again, that wouldn't be from the borough, that would be the Office of Open Records, that would be defining. Someone would have to report something to the Office of Open Records, and then they have to decide if it's a fine or not. But in all my years of working in local government, nothing has ever been so bad that it's like reached the level of the Office of Open Records being involved. Must produce meeting minutes, and the legal minimum for meeting minutes when we come to vote on who will be secretary, or if we decide to have a rotating secretary, is you have to say who was there and who voted for and against anything on the agenda. Part of why we do the recording is to make it less of a burden to do minutes. If someone really wants to know the details of what was talked about, they can go back and watch the recording. But if the minute taker wants to put detail in, that's their call. The public is also allowed to record meetings and does not have to get permission or announce it. Committee minutes and these recordings are public records. So I'm here for you. If you have questions, these are also the other places you can go to get more official answers. Honestly, if you ask me a question, this is where I'm going to get the answer for you. Any additional questions before we continue on?
Would it be helpful to, and then the committee to have the ordinance, the establishing ordinance, and maybe the slides put?
Yeah, that was in that.
They're not attached to the agenda right now, as far as the packet.
Oh, you mean like put it in like a packet?
I don't know, so you want to put it with the agenda or put the minutes, give it to those?
Yeah.
But I don't know if people would like to have it in a place where you can defer.
This was attached.
Oh, it was attached. Okay,
Yeah.
then, all right, so yeah, that was, I didn't see it online, so that's good. Okay, thank you.
All right, and then also emailed out to everybody was the resolution that Borough Council did for, this is the track changes version, for meeting recording. So you got to see, the back and forth that happened when I was writing this ordinance with our
And has that been
resolution.
signed? That's been signed?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was wondering.
So
What happened was this, if you go back and watch the recording, this resolution was written, and then at the Borough Council meeting, there were some suggested changes to the resolution. Which were good, they were good suggestions, and so this is the updated version. I'm sorry, Dennis, you're gonna say something?
So it has been passed,
It has, yeah.
and so it will be video as well as voice recording.
So, yes, that does both video and audio. We're working to create a setup so that I don't necessarily have to be here every time to do the recording, but that is still in progress. So for now, I'm here tonight, we're recording, and I'll let you know once we have the technology in a place where it's more user-friendly. My goal is to make it like a one-button click sort of situation. So all you have to do, whoever the secretary is, you walk in the room, you click the button to record, you click the button to stop recording. We'll get there. Any questions about the meeting? All right, you're doing great tonight. All right, now you all actually have to do stuff here tonight. The first thing you have to do is select a chair, vice chair, and secretary. The primary responsibility of the chair is basically what I've been doing so far here tonight, is to lead the meeting, ensure everyone has a chance to speak and be heard. And generally the chair is responsible for the agenda, but again, like I said, I'm happy to help support the chair if he or she wants that support. The vice chair would serve as chair if for some reason the chair was unavailable. And the secretary is responsible for taking meeting minutes and will be responsible for the meeting recordings. That can be a designated person, or some committees do it like by alphabetical order or something like that on a rotating basis. With the exception of the chair, generally, because it's kind of hard to be chair and take meeting minutes. Though some folks do it, and I give them a lot of credit for it. So, I guess I will maybe open it up here for you all to talk about if anyone has a particular feeling about any of these positions.
I would defer to the more experienced member.
Yeah. We are all very new. Like, we just started in December and there's been a lot of changes, so we haven't really gotten the ground on this. So I think we kind of all are starting at the same place, let's be honest.
Yeah, Jimmy, nobody's been on board for.
That's true, yeah.
But he's unfortunately not able to do it.
So we should nominate Jimmy.
If I nominated Chair, Samantha's gonna have to come and do this again next month, so I think we should at least do that.
Yeah. If you want to nominate him as vice chair, I don't see a problem with that, but I know you're kind of joking, but.
I'm joking.
Yeah, you nominate someone as chair who wasn't agreeable.
Has he expressed interest or does he have experience?
He hasn't said anything to me either way like that.
Do you guys have experience being chair of a committee before or vice chair in your
No.
professional or private life?
No.
It's been a long time.
I know, Carolyn, you have the gravitas here in this discussion of someone who might be a good chair.
I have gravitas. I have little time. That's the issue. So I would be lovely vice chair to support somebody who has more time to get the agendas together. But I have reservation in my heart with being able to get it in the timeline. It's aggressive every month. I feel like I would not be able to meet that challenge.
Thank you for your honesty.
Okay, Dennis?
And what is the term of the chair?
It's generally a 1 year term, but because we're in the middle of the year, the chair would actually just be until January, or until December, I guess. So if you wanted to try chair for the next 2 months, and then if it doesn't work out in January, you have an opportunity for someone else to do it.
Okay, we're all going to learn together on the job, so I'll do it for the next 6 months, and we'll reset in December.
I put a motion to nominate Dennis Callen for chair.
I second the motion.
Sorry.
So, sorry, you've all never, I actually had to vote on anything before. I forgot to explain this. So when you vote on something, the borough follows a very, very basic version of Robert's Rules of Order. You will never need to read it. It should never be a real issue here. And part of my job is to know Robert's Rules of Order for you. So you make a motion, someone seconds it, then you can discuss the motion, and then you just vote. You don't need a third or fourth or anything like that. So sorry I didn't explain that. So we have a motion from Carolyn, a second from Dennis. I don't think we have any further discussion. All those in favor? Carolyn, motion. And just so everyone knows, I'm handling, just for tonight, the official minutes. All right, and can I have a motion to appoint Carolyn Giordano as vice chair? All right, Dennis has made a motion.
Vice chair.
May I have a second? All right, Dennis and Dennis. Any further discussion? All those in favor? See what I mean about taking minutes and the person running the meeting?
I like the idea of rotating secretary. Unless somebody wants it over full times.
Yeah.
You can do that. Or if you want, does somebody have a passion for it?
Well, again, you know, we can try, why don't we do
I got a
this?
girl talking, she has a computer.
Why don't we do this? If we rotate it for the next few months, again, everyone will have a chance to have done it. And then in January, you can make a more informed decision if you want to continue that, or if you want to have someone just do it. So like I said, I'm doing it for tonight. So if you went in alphabetical order, at your next meeting, it actually would be Dennis who would be first up to do it. So like I said, Lori, all you have to do is just know who was there, what motions were made, and who voted in favor and who voted against the motion. And if you want to look on the borough website, the minutes that were done before, they were probably more detailed than legally required, but they'll give you an idea of.
Should the minutes then be provided to you so that they will be put on the?
Exactly, yeah. So at the next meeting, for example, you know, the agenda will have approval of the minutes from this meeting, which I'll have drafted up, and I'll, you know, make sure that you all have. You would approve them at that meeting, hopefully, and then someone would let me know, and then I can post them on the website. Alright, so secretary. All right, well, I will turn the meeting over to your chair to guide us through the last couple of items here. And you're welcome to do like Borough Council does if you need me to give some background on these items.
Great. Well, the first one is very straightforward. When is the best time for all of us to meet moving forward? And, so number 7, consider future meeting schedule.
I'll be at any time.
My schedule's pretty open, so it's,
Sorry?
my schedule's
Flexible.
pretty open, so.
I'm fairly flexible as well, but, this meeting or this time slot works well for me, but I'm flexible at my switch days.
The time slot works for me, but the day of the week is difficult. What about you?
It depends on the week and I can actually even do noon meetings, like if we were opening to like a lunchtime, like, you know, I mean, some, if that was like if Thursday's the day.
Oh,
but
no,
otherwise I
the time is,
Yes, so evenings, okay, that's what I was
evenings
saying.
work for me,
Right.
it's just Thursdays or.
So Thursdays, got it, okay.
I wouldn't be able to consistently make Thursdays,
Okay,
so I don't want to just, you know, go AWOL, you know.
what day works for
every
you?
other- Well, almost every other day at work.
Every Wednesday?
Wednesday works for me, well, obviously any day, obviously except Thursday and Friday, no one can do Friday. So Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday.
I like Wednesday, there's no football on Wednesdays.
You coach,
I do. Well, no, I
Changes
mean flag, but
Wednesday.
my son plays for St. Martin's.
yeah.
Yeah, Wednesday would work.
Wednesday works for everybody?
So how is the second, sorry, so I got too used to being
So are
chair.
we okay with keeping the same schedule at the second day of the second, you know, week of each month, but on Wednesday instead of Thursday?
I will have a September conflict, so I coach softball Wednesdays, but that's only September, right? So Wednesday, the next Wednesday I'll have an issue, perhaps I can zoom in, like 7:30, I'll probably be here by then.
Okay.
So it's a hot maybe, but in October and November we'll probably are fine.
And when does it pick up again?
Spring. So March,
So then March is, it's difficult, right?
and I don't know Wednesday in March, so that's too much in the future for us, but,
Oh, you don't know which day in March?
I'm sorry.
In the spring, they might change the day of the week.
yeah. Yeah,
So the second Wednesday in September is September 14th.
Yeah, and this, if I can put 2 cents in here. Since largely this committee generally, works with the Borough Council's Infrastructure Committee, I think the second week of the month works well because infrastructure meets the 4th week of the month. And that kind of gives like a week and a half in case you all have any information you want to put together or present to the infrastructure committee. And vice versa, if the infrastructure committee has anything to share or report to you all, there's a, 2 weeks between those meetings.
Yeah, the second week of each month works. That's our conflict. So would we like to go with Wednesdays until the end of the year and then reset again, just like when we reset with the chair positions? Can we?
Yeah, legally, we'll have to do a new ad anyway at the beginning of the year, so.
Okay, so we'll go with Wednesdays between now and just the end of the year. And if you could even come late on
Yeah,
that
it
day.
might, yeah. Maybe.
Monthly.
Sorry.
I was just gonna say, make sure Michelle is.
So
Do you mean?
everyone's in agreement that the second Wednesday of each month, starting in
Do we have
September.
to do
So
this, do we have to do this by way of a motion?
Yeah, so I'll throw one last thing out there too, is maybe what we do is make this contingent as well on Michelle and Jim being able to participate, because I hate to just shut them out of the meeting. So assuming that's not completely off limits for them, yes, so there would need to be a motion, motion that Parks and Rec will meet the second Wednesday of each month at 7:30, pending confirmation from Michelle Parton and Jim McNulty.
Sounds good.
Would you second?
That's right.
Let's see, we have a motion, we have a second.
We have one point of discussion before we vote.
Well, we need a second first, are you
Oh,
seconding?
second.
I thought, wait,
You
who
made
made-
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
Chris made the motion,
You did.
you can second it,
Can I second and
Yeah.
discuss?
yeah.
I second it,
Okay.
and then I wanted to discuss. This is so
I
natural.
feel like I need a George Washington.
Good
video
gravy.
right now.
So just historically, the committee, I believe, met every other month. And then this is the first year they met monthly. And so I don't know the history of changing the meeting schedule to monthly, and if it is still, so if you can clarify that.
So the reason for that is mostly because of the way the Sunshine Act is. So like I just said, to do a special meeting, we have to go through all the trouble of advertising. However, to cancel a meeting, there's really nothing we have to do other than just tell people it's canceled. So that's why the thought process was, if we make it officially every month, get the legal ad out of the way, and then if you just want to cancel, that's no big deal.
How do you cancel if you can't email more than 4 people if you cancel a meeting?
That is the only thing that you are allowed to do via email. If you want to discuss meeting scheduling or discuss cancellation of a meeting, that's the only thing I would say you should ever be doing via email.
So it appears it's up to us to decide that. And first, is meeting monthly and then taking the summer off what you expected? What did you expect since you're the newest members?
I think there's a lot that has to get done.
What?
I think there's a lot that needs to get done, and to get done fast. So if it means meeting every month, I'm happy to do that, or every other month.
I think it's necessary to meet every month to move forward with all of this.
Totally agree with that.
All right, then we will, then we don't have to take any action on that because we're already scheduling monthly. So,
Just vote on the motion on the.
yes. All right. So the motion is that we meet pending feedback from Jim and Michelle. We meet the second Wednesday of each month at 7:30 p.m.
All in favor?
All right, great.
We're getting there.
Yes. So, number 8, review draft Parks and Recreation goals from the Borough Infrastructure Committee, which include the skate park pilot program monitoring, evaluation of when parks and facilities should open, consideration of closure of park bathrooms during the winter, Parks and Rec completing the master plan versus forming a master park plan committee, creation of park usage, rental policy and permit, organize annual park users meeting, and summer camp program reinstitution. So skate park monitoring, now that the council did recently discuss video, but reactive video that's used in case there's an issue. Borough manager, is that tied to this? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, so if I can go high level for a minute, yeah. So the goal here tonight, and I think you understand this, Dennis, is not for us to actually solve all these things here tonight, but just to make sure exactly that you all understand what these issues are and kind of bring you up to speed a little bit, especially those who are even newer about what all is kind of been going on with the parks and all that. So yes, your question fits in perfectly what I was hoping to kind of cover with this. So I think more of what, and if I'm wrong, our infrastructure chair can correct me, was that this committee will be a forum where any particular concerns or specific kind of questions or concerns we get about the skate park could be discussed. There will be a place where if there are any specific ideas for events or activities at the skate park, that they could be considered. A place where we have the ongoing survey about the skate park, where periodically I could share those results with this committee. And it's more just a general, anecdotal kind of how do we think the skate park is going, combined with like the hard data we have from the survey and that sort of thing.
But in order for us to really address these issues, we need to have, I think, more information.
Sorry, what was that, Dennis?
We would need, for example, if we were going to discuss this skate park pilot program, I'm familiar, I don't know how much everybody else is, I'm familiar with some of the history of what went on. I don't really know anything about the hard evidence, if you put it, things like that. Should we be provided with that, or should we be looking for that information somewhere so that we can discuss?
So how I view my job, not just to council, but to the various committees in the borough, is to help provide that information for you all. So if you're discussing a particular topic and need background information, or if I know the borough office has relevant information, then I do consider it my job to definitely, in advance of your meeting, make sure you have that information. So for example, if, let's say I'm not saying this will be the case, but let's say your next meeting, if, reviewing the survey results so far for the skate park was on the agenda, I would make sure that you have the results of the survey available.
Where is the survey posted?
Yeah, it is on the borough website. I know that the borough intern has been redoing our menu and site map. So off the top of my head, I could not tell you where it is on it. But I do know it's there, and that's actually a good reminder to me that the borough should probably do some follow-up PR about it.
There is a QR code to the survey on the state park itself. If you want to take the survey results, they're not posted anywhere. I don't know. But I think there's been more than 28 responses so far, so it's not overwhelming.
We're somewhat, I think, working, we are working for the Borough Council through the infrastructure committee in part. So would it not be helpful for them to, of these 7 or 8 items, tell us what it is that they would like us to focus on, or at least give us those thoughts? That doesn't mean we couldn't come up with, I would think, a different agenda, but at least if we knew what it was that was foremost on their minds, it would help us. I mean, I would think, for example, the Parks and Rec completing master plan versus master plan committee, it would be helpful to know which way they're going on that, or that maybe they're open-minded. It also would be very helpful, I think, to know the results of whatever studies have been made to this point in time, so that we're up to speed.
Absolutely. No, I think you're right. I think I envision it as a two-way street where, you have these topics here from infrastructure, and this is like the full list of all the various things we've talked about, for Parks and Rec to work on. And then also from you all, ideas will come to infrastructure of things that are, that you'd like to work on and see happen in the parks.
And I just also say, you elected a chair, and typically the chair is ultimately responsible for setting the agenda, obviously in consultation with, with the rest of the board. But at some point, right, things need to be prioritized. You can't do everything at once. So, I think ultimately it'll be like you giving into the depths of what's the most important things. We can have a back and forth between. I don't think there's anything on this list that, I would feel as chairman for sure, I think we got to do this first. They're all, important. I think, as Dennis puts the agendas together, they'll sort of determine which items to tee up first, and, then we talk about getting all the information and the data and background and any previous analysis. I think we'll work with Samantha to make sure that that's included and that that's pushed out to the entire board. So, right, Dennis?
Correct, and some of these items are things that in our short tenure were discussed previously. So I would need to consult on the previous minutes so that we're not starting from scratch. I'm taking some guidance on previous discussions, of course. So, like for example, the hours of parks and facilities should be open. That was previously discussed. Bathroom closure. That's more common sense. Like in the winter, is the bathroom really necessary when it's below freezing, perhaps? So that's obviously lower on the priority list, but the master plan, that's a new item, but we are all new and we all want to be part of the betterment of our, what our town has. So that's something we should prioritize, in the next meeting. And then the rental policy, that's something that is old business. I actually had a draft of that, so I have to find that in the notes. Annual park user meeting, that I'm not familiar with, so.
Sure, so my understanding, keep in mind, I'm actually relatively new here as well. I've been borough manager in Narberth for about a year and a quarter. My
Quite
understanding.
frankly, sounds like extensive tenure from what we've
My understanding is that once upon a time, the Parks and Rec Committee facilitated an annual meeting where all the different groups that use the park throughout the year, such as the Narberth Athletic Association, Narberth Boys Basketball, Girls Basketball, folks who do community events and things in the park, our Civic Association, Shade Tree Commission, you get reps together from all those groups. This was kind of like a chance to make sure everyone was on the same page and playing nice with the park usage. And I think that meeting would be a really good opportunity to talk through, for example, this park rental policy that is something that's been kind of gestating over the last year or so. But that's the short version of what annual park users meeting is.
Chris, you mentioned you thought there were a lot of things that we action now. I just wondered if you had.
No, more about the parks. I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done with both parks, and it's kind of started from the outside looking in, it's taking way too long for all this to happen.
Me and you will get along really well, Chris.
What's that?
Me and you will get along really well.
Yeah, we should be bulldozing now. But the rentals, is that for all the organizations that are in town to pay a rental fee to the borough to use the park, or is that for outside?
Yeah, so again, I'll give you more information later, but the short version is right now there's no program whatsoever.
So everybody uses it for free, St. Margaret's,
Everyone
adult
uses it.
baseball, it's all free.
Everyone, not only does everyone use it for free, there's no reservation system at all. So yeah, when someone calls, I'll tell you kind of a story that really hit home to me. Literally my first day working here, the governor's office calls and tells me the governor, this is a Monday, that Governor Wolf wants to do a press conference in Marbury Park on Thursday. And so I turned to my assistant and I asked her, okay, how do we reserve the park to make sure it's available for the governor on Thursday? And she says to me, we don't have a reservation system. And I'm like, okay, that'll be an item for the to-do list. And so yeah.
Yeah. All right.
And also, I mean, people call the borough, to be more grounded about it, I mean, people call the borough office all the time asking, you know, to reserve or rent the pavilion. Borough council's gonna talk, probably gonna talk on Thursday. There's someone who wants to use the basketball courts for a few hours to film a TV show pilot. Council did, just due to timing, set up a standalone skate park rental. And maybe that might be something that can be used as some sort of, you know, model. I think it fits in pretty well with what you all already kind of talked about in terms of how rentals would work. But other than for the skate park, there's no system whatsoever.
So is the board responsible for just discussing it and setting the direction for it, or drafting it, and what's the
Yeah, so it kind of depends on how hands-on the board wants to be. I do believe there is I do believe the board got as far as actually drafting something. So I think really all we need to do is just actually look at what was already drafted and provide comments and feedback on
And
it.
where can we get that draft?
So whenever your first meeting is that you like really are gonna get in the weeds on it, that draft will be provided as part of the meeting materials.
Was that draft shared with the infrastructure committee too, and feel like that draft, was that shared with the infrastructure committee? Do you have a separate
Right.
draft? Okay. Yeah, I didn't know
No,
that.
I think there's a draft, and there's some research also that I know that you've done, and I've done, and we've kind of got it, I think when you tee it up on the agenda, you can take a look at it. Like there's like did I do like a little spreadsheet? I don't think I did like a
Yeah.
spreadsheet of like.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I didn't know.
No, something like that,
Put
you
that together, what
compare,
they-
like how do they price out the parks, who
Yeah.
do they charge, who do they not charge, how do they draw the line between community users and non-community? And so you can sort of look at that in the draft, and then it's posted up, you take it and finish, yeah. I know you can't wait to get it.
Yeah.
So are we making money off the pilot that's being filmed at the basketball courts?
Well, that's the borough council, yeah, we'll have to talk about on Thursday. Now, for the skate park, borough council did set up a fee of currently $250 for every 3 hours of use.
For a private party or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and
With waivers?
Oh, yeah.
Insurance
And the fee schedule that we previously discussed was the nominal fee, but it's just so that there's some organization and, you know, that, for use of the park. So that's something that I think we can tackle very quickly.
Yeah, and the last thing I guess I'll say, just to give a little more background on that, sorry, I'm really kind of digging into this now, that some of the users do, like NAA and each of the basketball groups do on a, it's an unscheduled, unofficial thing, will occasionally pay part of the cost of improvements to the park, particularly ones that, you know, affect their programs.
Which improvements?
So like a lot of the baseball, like the baseball netting and like the backstops, like NAA, you know, paid a good chunk towards that. Correct me if I'm wrong, didn't the basketball league pay for the resurfacing of the court, or did the borough? But it's not, there's no formal kind of arrangement for any of that. It's kind of like just when they're, you know, which I'm grateful for it, but right now it's out of the goodness of anyone's heart when they do anything. So it's
Didn't
not,
I pay for the netting?
United Health as well.
Who maintains the parks?
So the borough does.
Do we have a cost of that for the year? What that costs?
Yeah,
It's in the the budget, which I'm happy to send to you.
Okay.
Yeah, good questions. Yeah, so I know I know last year, I think it was around 16,000 to maintain, Narberth and Sabine Park. And I think this year, the budget is 30,000. And I want to say about, 19 or 20,000 of it's been spent so far. And I mean, that includes the cost of doing the skate park installation. Also a piece of playground equipment, that went completely kaput. And that was a $3,000 replacement. So that's why the costs are up a little bit this year compared to prior years. But that's a subject, yes, I definitely look forward to working with the group on.
It's pretty amazing to think it's not, the theme part I can understand, you know, but no schedule. I mean,
Yeah.
Exactly.
I would, wait a minute, we're playing baseball. Sorry, but you know, I'm already over here with the softball team. I mean, it's
Well, yeah, I mean, anything that has a schedule there, you should be paying to use the facility. Completely.
Correct.
NAA, St. Martin's baseball, football, there's no baseball league.
I feel like Greg Knox has actually been scheduling various baseball organizations forever, even though he just has been doing it forever. Even though he's not on this board, he just does it. So Greg Knox knows when people are going to use the field, but that's not a very transparent system for people who might want to use it if they don't have a way to know it. So it's really not an interesting doing that.
No, Greg runs all the baseball stuff for the NAA, like he's
Okay.
an alternate board member.
Yeah, I mean, I think he coordinates with St. Martin's too, make sure that there's no.
It is troublesome for people, like, I have softball, but we're not NAA, so I couldn't just like take my girls over.
From Laurel Marion.
Yeah, Laurel Marion Little League doesn't have the permit for that field and couldn't get it, or could they, or I don't
And
know,
it's
so
a different
it's
league.
tricky. Yeah, so it's not like but also I brought up the point with the pavilion and like low-key events, like I have the Daisy Troop, the Girl Scout Daisy Troop, we wanted to rent the pavilion to sing some holiday songs, so we just emailed, and that's when I found out, there's no, and they were like, okay, you know, first come, first served to go to the pavilion. So if it was like a Wednesday concert in the park night, like certainly we'd have to like, or, you know, we wouldn't be able to use it, or if there was a birthday party or some other, who knows, like yoga or whatever event in that pavilion, there's no calendar or anything, and I don't know that you have to charge for everything in the park, like birthday parties and the low-key things, but
Right.
certainly these large events like that have cleanup and electricity and
Yeah, so
liability or the.
So what I'd love to share with you all is, the research, which I'm grateful, to Michelle for working a bit on, is what everyone else in the area does in terms of fees and such. And I think once you see that, that'll serve as a good basis for a conversation.
And the final item is the reinstitution of summer camp programs, which I think is a great idea.
Yeah.
My kid pre-COVID did a couple of camps, and I'm sure all of the kids have done camps. So,
Everything else is over.
what is
I mean, we can't do it this year, but for next year.
correct? So I can't speak to what that looks like. Can we defer to Councilman Panagopoulos to speak to that? Why it's on there and what has been discussed? Can we defer to her, or can you speak?
Sure, I'll start, and then like I said, she's welcome to follow up here. So our understanding is just, just thinking about once upon a time, there was a summer camp program in the borough. There no longer, there hasn't been one in the past few years. And just ensuring that we have one in the future would really, I think, all the discussions so far that's been had on it.
I would love to make it not summer camp, but school break camp. So then it's winter breaks or Thanksgiving breaks, or anytime it's warm enough to be in the parks, spring break or things like that, like we can have camps too, and that's a financial.
Couldn't they use the Girl Scout room during winter breaks?
Your Girl Scouts are using it, but yeah, that's certainly could be.
But you bring up a good point with the breaks.
Well, and it was free, right?
No, so there's been a lot of changes with how that works. So one of the
No,
things I did do when I started here was brought some order to the usage of paid winter. So just so you all know, my sort of pet peeve, and it's almost like a swear jar down the downstairs of the borough office. What was formerly known as the Girl Scout room is the west wing of the community building, and what was formerly known as the Legion room is now the east wing of the community building. And the way it works now is the west wing is primarily reserved at night and on the weekends for use by the Girl Scouts, and during the day or as needed for like borough events. It's not generally available for public use. The east wing is available for rental by private parties, and there's a $300 fee for that. But if it was like a Parks and Rec event, that would be a borough event. And in that case, we could work out the usage of the west wing of the community.
But the summer camp used to be free, right? That was in summer.
They did.
Yeah,
It's
which
free in our
we can charge for that.
Back to
If the
the
committee
west.
were to decide so.
Yeah.
Yes, the Borough Council authorized.
Yeah, the General Wayne is like $400 for
Except
the
for
summer.
Is it really that much?
So troops
General
are
Wayne
now
for
being
some-
asked
oh, yeah,
to
that's
pay
pretty
to
cheap.
use that.
No.
8 weeks.
Yeah.
It's relatively inexpensive.
Like Girl Scout troops, individual troops, troops 7, 6, 6, 9, example, like we have to pay the Girl Scouts of Eastern Pennsylvania
Really?
to use that room every year, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And there's also a call out to rename that room. So you might want to chat with Weatherwax.
Yeah, I'll reach out with Christine about that.
And if any other organization, like for like Earth Day or Tree Planting Day, wanted to use that room as like a bathroom or wash hands or just to get some shade those days, I know this last year we had to ask Weatherwax
Yeah.
to do so instead of the borough. So there is like, I think word lines of who owns that room, how they're.
But the Girl Scouts don't have any ownership.
Well,
But then
they do.
I'm not paying them
There's,
$20 a year. It's a month depending on what, that's where my money, like. our-
do the Girl Scouts have ownership of, do the Girl Scouts have an ownership stake in the room?
Maybe
They
not
maintain
ownership,
the
but
calendar,
they
they help, like, they take people out, they hold the.
Probably not a great thing.
Get the priority groups.
Yeah, there's a, we don't have time tonight to get into it, but I'll just say the simple answer is they do probably have legal rights to priority use of the space.
So what we're trying to do, I think now, is prioritize what we think our agenda might be for the next meeting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it looks to me, this is just, we want to talk about the master plan for the park, so get some handle on that. And also,
That can be shared with you, there's a historic.
well, there's going to be a lot there, we're going to get a lot of information, so, but that seems to me the biggest thing in terms of, that'll get you to the issues of the maintenance of the park, that'll get to the issues
Absolutely.
ultimately
God,
of
yeah.
the use of the current Sabine Park, and then what, if anything, do we recommend with regard to that?
Exactly.
And then, of course, then the borough can figure out how they can pay for everything.
Well, that's, I say this a lot, and I also put a disclaimer that's gonna get me in trouble one day. I also see my job as borough council, we figure out, these committees and council figure out what is in the best interest of the borough, and then it is my job to figure out how to pay for it and make it happen, so, yes.
Sure.
That's great, because I had already listed that as number 1, and number 2 being their usage and rental program, because we have that already drafted, and that would be easy to knock off. And then, if we're going to do an annual park user meeting, we would need to determine next
Yeah.
month when that's going to be. Obviously, November, December makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a simple administrative item. So, at least, and now we have our first 3 items for next month. Thank you
So,
for your help.
Is there already a master plan for both parks, like
There's
No.
architecture, the landscape,
No.
nothing? It's just
We were
words on paper?
fortunate to get, we were fortunate to find out the history on that. They completed the previous borough manager had tasked them with coming up with a plan for the parks, for this park, and they had it drawn up. It was leftover money from a KCBA study that was, or project that was done on borough facilities. That's a high-level overview, and if you need to correct me for the record, feel free after.
So it wasn't leftover money, it was budgeted money.
Budget, okay. So they had this plan, which is something that never was implemented, but the borough would like to have a new plan for both, obviously here and 201 Sabine, and 201 Sabine, what's the, what's the challenge there? The redevelopment. So, a park master plan is very important to guide, the future of both parks.
Are we considering Station Circle as well?
That's not.
That's actually a separate ongoing project.
I wondered if they were considering Station Circle as like a park.
However,
Yeah.
with the planner working on the town square project, as that's another swear jar word nowadays, just saying that, Station Circle.
Okay.
The town square project,
Okay.
there have been chats to let them know that there will be a master parks plan coming along, and that we do want harmony
Yeah.
between Narberth Park and Town Square. Also, we'll know hopefully in a couple of months here, before you get too far into anything. This is public knowledge, council publicly voted on this.
Elmwood?
Yeah, for Elmwood, whether or
Is
not.
that the old church for Elmwood?
No, that's 198 Elmwood. Three Elmwood is right around the corner.
Oh, the old open
It's our
area?
newest green space.
So.
Hopefully.
Very exciting.
Never even
Listen,
noticed.
when they were trying
That's
to
what I
cram 6
prefer about
townhouses in
maybe.
there, yeah, they're pretty happy about that green space.
I never noticed that.
It was gonna be a death trap for anybody
Oh, I
coming out of the
know.
driveway.
Well, we're still waiting on the result of the grant applications. We should know October or November. Yeah.
So that adds additional thing for us to
That's another,
potentially part of.
that's
So-
another park space and open space, or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
And we
And
can,
maintenance fee though, yeah.
please,
Company in shape.
the people on the south side, what green space do they have? That's gonna be their closest green space.
They probably want a rugby field.
How big is that?
It's bigger than you think. If you look behind the trees, there's a lot in there.
Yeah.
There's more than we would have thought,
Yeah,
but there's not as much as we tried to present.
It's in between a busy road and a train station.
Oh, yeah, yeah, no, I know.
Not, you know,
So
we're
it's
not playing-
let's just
yeah,
say
we're not
it's-
playing football
It's all
there.
that overgrowth on the left side of the town.
Yeah.
it's got a lot of potential.
Yeah, sure.
Got a lot of
There's some
potential.
palms and there's a creek and it's lovely, but
So,
it's great.
yeah, it's exciting. We have a lot of great things ahead of us, so,
You really don't.
so this will be, wonderful. So as far as what we needed to discuss tonight, we hit all the items. We determined our next meeting pending the other members' input. And we have our first 3 agenda items for our next meeting. So what, I have to look up the notes from the previous meetings and get the draft of the permit use. And then I'll get those notes and I'll send them out to you. The ones that are relevant to our agenda items, I'll just email them out. I can email the whole group those notes without violation.
Yeah, that is correct.
We all-
That's information
Chat
sharing.
about it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, can we say thank you?
Better not to.
I
Yes.
don't want
And
to get slapped on the head.
Dennis, whatever
Cross
you need
the
from me,
street.
I'm, as chair, I'm here for it.
Okay.
Yeah, likewise, Dennis, or anybody on the board,
Yeah,
reach
okay.
out to me anytime. It's very influential.
I would move that we adjourn.
Second,
Yes, look at that.
all in favor?
Yeah, we're-
Boom, sweating.
All right, thank you.
Recording
Thank
all
you.
fire.
There's also, did you guys ever get access to the Google Drive document? Or I think Jim McNulty must have that.
I believe I may have.
I mean,
Yeah, okay,
yeah, sure.
I don't
Let me
I
stop that.
documents from years ago.